Hi, everybody. This is Dan Bickford, a host of Carolina Rides. Time for our next episode. This one's pretty special because we're not doing a car club. We're not doing a special person. We're doing, well, the person who we're going to talk to is special. But we're actually going to talk about a road. This is going to be a little bit different. First, I do want to let you know that if you are interested in following us, we've got several social avenues you can follow on Facebook, on YouTube, and also on Instagram. You will also find, not long after we air this fresh on our WSPA Plus streaming service, you will also find that we will have this available in full length on YouTube. So we will have all of that activity up there. Having said all that and gotten those pleasantries done, many of you are familiar with the company Hagerty. They're a classic car insurance company. Well, they also have something called the Hagerty Drivers Club. If you're a part of that, you're familiar with it. And if you're not a part of it, you can be familiar with it. They put out a great magazine. In fact, here is a copy of it right here. It's not just about cars themselves. The beautiful thing about this is it's really more about, if you haven't seen it, a cover-to-cover read, not only about the cars, but a story really, and a lot of stories really have to do with the relationships between the cars, the owners, and our relationship and our love with cars. Now, recently, in that issue I just showed you, they named the Cherohala Skyway, a road that runs from Robbinsville, North Carolina, that's Graham County, North Carolina, so that's technically our backyard, to Tellico Plains, Tennessee, as their Road of the Year. Here to explain what all that means, we've got the Senior Vice President for Media and Editorial for Hagerty, Larry Webster. Larry, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Dan.
Yeah, I appreciate you joining us. Well, let's start at the beginning. You are, shall we say, at least in car circles, a well-known automotive journalist. Tell us about a little bit about your path to where
Ah,
you are now.
I am a certified car junkie. I've been since I was 3 years old. I started my career in car and driver in 1995. Spent a bunch of years there. I was actually their chief test driver, so I would get the 0 to 60 numbers, lap times, things like that. Then I went to Popular Mechanics, and I went to Road and Track. And then almost 10 years ago, I landed at Hagerty, where I'm in charge of not just the magazine, but also our YouTube channel, our social, and of course, our website, hagerty.com/media, where all this stuff is available for free.
Now, you said 3 years old. Do you remember what got you interested in cars to begin with?
No, I can just remember, my parents had the station wagon. We were driving somewhere. We used to camp, and I'd lie in the back of the station wagon, and I could ID any car by its taillights. And that just kind of started it from there.
That's actually sounds very similar to me, except
Sure.
I never got
Every
I never got to that point. Was there along the line, was there a particular person or event that really kind of stoked that interest a little bit more to make you go, "Hey, this is something I want to turn into a career"?
No, I think, at an event. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I never really imagined, even though I read Car and Driver since I was 10 and I loved it, I never put two and two together like I could work there until I was at college at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania, and I had a girlfriend at University of Michigan. And then I realized, oh my God, my favorite magazine's in Ann Arbor. So I figured if I could get an internship there, I could spend the summer in Ann Arbor. And that's oversimplifying it, Dan. It took almost a year of lobbying before I got that internship, like to get that foot in the door. But I did, and then once I did, I kicked it open.
Who a car and driver would you consider to be, whether it was, one of their previous editorial managers or whatever? Who was the biggest influence and what happened from there?
Well, I mean, Chupachetta ended up hiring me later after college, again as an intern. But the one I learned the most from was a guy named John Phillips. He was really influential because I remember when I showed up, and he had this great thing where he said, "Look, you can have a lot of fun here. Just figure out how to make a story out of it, and you do it for free." I was like, "Oh, wow." So every week when we would have the editorial meeting, I would have like 10 ideas. Even though I was the youngest person on staff, by far, Dan, the worst writer, worst. I had so many ideas that, 1 out of 30 would hit. And, I got to race at Baja, I did Pikes Peak. I did all this stuff as a magazine story. And the person who had to edit the copy, though, it made his life really awful because I was writing more pages than anybody. And I, like I said, the worst writer. So it was I didn't know I was going to survive, but I did, and glad I did.
Yeah, I enjoy the rare occasions now we see the John Phillips byline come back up. It's good to see he's still involved.
He is. I was just emailing with him the other day, and he was just, all about the idea that and I knew what I was doing. I knew I was probably foregoing a career path, but I would enjoy waking up every day, and that's all that was important to me.
From the driving standpoint, what was that first car you ever had that made you go, "Wow, this is fun"?
GTI, Rabbit GTI. I first bought my first car was a '84 Dodge Daytona Turbo, and I was reading all the stuff in the car magazines about this Rabbit GTI, how great it is, and sure enough, I don't remember the sequence, but I remember there one popped up for sale on a computer message board at my college, and I bought it for $2,300, and I started driving this thing. Was like, oh, I see what they're talking about, and it just sort of totally opened my eyes. By the way, this is what I always think's funny. I bought that car online, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it never clicked to me, Dan, that wow, buying cars online is going to be a huge thing. Never. Somebody else got to get rich off of that idea. I did not.
Yeah, that's many ways you can get cars in other ways right now
Yeah.
in comparison to the old days. You can get cars from across the country, but the thing is, you kind of have to know what you're buying before you get into it.
Yeah, totally. But the idea that you could build a platform, that this was going
Yeah.
to be big, this was going to be how people were going to buy and find cars, and it just never entered my mind. I mean, it just was like, oh, well, there's a forum here on the college. Great.
What's your big automotive love now? What do you got?
It's so diverse, Dan. I mean, I really love in the pages of the magazines, I've been chronicling this restoration of a 1975 Ferrari Dino 308 GT4. I bought it for 25 grand, and just this morning I'm still tinkering with the carburetors to get rid of an off-idle stumble. It's got 4 Weber carburetors, and they all have 3. I mean, it's really complicated. I don't know what I'm doing, but I do love that kind of tinkering spot. But then this weekend, I'm racing at Waterford Hills, and it's something called the Spec Racer Ford. So I think at the end of my day, I really love behind the wheel and the right machine when I'm piloting it. I'm fascinated that cars are an extension of our body somehow, and our brains can take in data at a speed our bodies can't take us on their own, and we can get all this sensation through the seat of our pants, and then we can act on it. And I don't know why, I find it really satisfying.
Which, of course, then leads us directly into the whole concept of Road of the Year. How did
Absolutely.
you decide to start doing that?
It's one of these editorial meetings where we're constantly spitballing ideas. Ideas are easy, execution is hard. And when somebody says, like, you say no to all my ideas, my response is like, well, come with more ideas. I mean, it's pretty simple. And so one of those meetings, we were trying to figure out, like, okay, it'd be really fun to have something to kick off the summer driving season with. And, once you start naming cars and things like that, people get a little sideways if you honor one car and not theirs and things like that. So someone came up with, hey, what about Road of the Year? And it was just like everybody said, oh, yeah, of course. We all love roads. We talk about roads. We share roads. So great idea.
And now people get bent that their road is not Road of the Year, right?
Yes, they do. I was just looking at the web version of this story. This is the second year we've done it. And, every time you do something like this, you're looking for feedback that tells you that the audience likes it. And, of course, in the print world, you had this luxury where the audience never really said anything. So you could just do what you want. But now, of course, we have all this digital feedback. And I was looking on our digital article, and has 3 pages of comments. So it did get people talking, and I was reading through the comments, and a lot of it was, why are you telling everybody? I mean, this road is in your backyard. You probably know it really well, right?
Been on
And
it.
yeah, I'm sure you have. And so they're saying, why did you tell everybody? The secret's out. And I get it, but not that many people go do this sort of thing. But I guess you guys have a lot of history because Tail of the Dragon is such a zoo these days, right?
Yeah.
And so you're worried that and you have to tell me how you say it, because I thought it was Cherohala, and you pronounced it in a different way, probably.
I always thought it was Chero for Cherokee, which is the one forest it comes from, and Hala to go with the Nantahala forest, which is the other one it goes to, depending on which way
That
you're
makes
going.
sense. the friend of mine who showed it to me many, many years ago, he lives in Sevierville near Pigeon Forge, and he's the one who told me, no, we all say it this way. I was like, oh, okay, maybe I got that wrong.
Well, maybe I've got it wrong. We've got two different pronouns. It's all good. It's all a good road.
Yeah.
Actually, my first venture on that, because I don't get the chance, unfortunately, to play as much as I'd like to. Actually, during COVID, I rented a Camaro and said, well, if not now, when? Because it was staycation time. So I did the Blue Ridge Parkway and then went up and down the Skyway, and it was a blast.
It is. I think you have to, one of those things, you have to see it to experience it. I think we tried to capture as best we could photographically, and there's some social videos on our Instagram and Facebook channels, but nothing really prepares you until you're on it. And you do wonder. That's why I love doing that story, Dan, because when I drove it, I'm like, why is this road here? Like, who did this? This is amazing. And then to find out, it was kind of built for recreation. It even, I mean, I'm sure you know the story. The mayor of Tellico Plains, Sam Collins, he was trying to come up with something to draw people that were already in the area for the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. And somebody else had like they were reenacting horse-drawn carriages across the mountains. And it drew so many people, they thought, well, maybe we should do something with this trail. And it took them 50 years to go from that idea to a road in 1996. But they did. And it's like a park. I mean, it's totally amazing.
I just popped up a map of the road right now for those of you who are not familiar. If you go to Robbinsville, North Carolina, there's a road on the west side of town that you can take to Tellico Plains, and you can see all the zigs and zags that are associated with it. And it's not all zigzags. It's some nice sweeping curves, and it's especially on a beautiful spring or fall day, it can be spectacular, not only in the views, but just that mountain air rushing through.
Yeah, it does get snow covered earlier and it stays snow covered later. So it's something to keep in mind. But what I always tell folks is usually if you're there before 10 a.m., you have it to yourself. And that's a pretty fantastic experience. And the other thing we liked about it too, Dan, was it's 43 miles long. So it's like really digestible. So there's stops on either end. There's Tellico Plains where you can, have a little bite. And then there's Robbinsville, which you can do the same. So it's sort of like a great little, I don't know, bite-sized thing that's not too far from Atlanta, because we did have in our mind, Dan, it's funny you mentioned you rented a Camaro to go on it. Like, we always wanted the road of the year to be close enough to a major metropolitan area that people could potentially fly in, rent a car, and go sample it. So thank you for proving out the theory.
Well, I didn't want to do what I thought I was going to do to the car on my own car.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So it's just, buy the insurance and all is well. What was the first, tell us a little about the first road of the year, because this is the second one.
This is the second. So we're trying to cover bases geographically. And last year we did Southern California. And it's this road about 2 hours north of LA called Route 33 out of Ojai. I've driven this road about half a dozen times, and it's spectacular. It goes up the side of a valley in Southern California with all the views and the gorgeous light, and there are no houses on it. There are no other roads. Nobody's on it. So once you leave Ojai, it is free running for like almost 2 hours. I mean, you can't believe it still exists. You think this country is really crowded, and it is, but then you get out there, you're like, and by the way, I went back and just drove the thing this past February. Same thing. I mean, it's killer. So that's what we're trying to do is you had a really good way of putting like what we try to do at Hagerty and Hagerty Media is, we know people are interested in cars, but we try and talk about all the things that are around the car too. The people, the places you take the car, and actually the interesting things you can do with your car. And so at the end, like maybe they don't go to these road of the years, but we're hoping to inspire folks to use their cars. I mean, at Hagerty, that's what we exist for. We enable We want people to use them, have fun with them, and show people else why they're so great.
Yeah, the enjoyment is in that drive. We are going to take a
Yeah.
quick break here, and we're going to go a little bit more into detail about the Cherohala or Cherohala Skyway, depending on which side of the state line you're from, apparently. We'll be back with Larry Webster in just a moment. Stay with us. Hi, everybody. We're back with Larry Webster. We are talking about, as I mentioned, the Cherohala or Cherohala Skyway, depending on which side of the line you're on. I'm setting up something here. I'm looking away from the camera because I'm setting up some pictures that we are going to show that are from your website. And it's kind of a little slideshow that goes through some of the pictures from the drive. Tell me about, because I understand you took your own Corvette up here.
Totally. This was just an excuse to buy a car. And we were trying to think always part of the fantasy is what car would you take on it? I don't know. I'm just like, how about a C7? And I'm the boss, so I get to decide. And I found the car, and away we went. A lot of it is, if you look at the photography there, we were hooking up suction cups to the sides of it, to the side of the car, and doing certain things that, if we borrowed a car, it might make somebody uncomfortable. So this was a way that we could just sort of do what we want, because if you look at the photography, it's on Hagerty.com/media. What we try and do always is convey a sense of motion as often as we can, because everybody sees cars in parking lots. We want to see them in their natural environment doing what they're made to do. And if you see a lot of these shots that you're scrolling through, there's a fair amount of motion blur to the side. And there's a real trick to keeping the car or the subject matter sharp, but then blurring what's around you. And it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of care. It takes a really talented shooter. So yeah, that's kind of the way we did this one.
So I assume that you've got, cameras kind of just basically remotely, in the car and sort of almost remotely shot, because I know we've got the one shot where, the camera would almost have to be on your helmet to get the view of the dashboard the way it is. You can't stuff somebody else in a vet easily.
Yeah, no, that's actually the photographer in the back of the car.
Really?
And
Okay.
Yep, he's got his arm over and he's putting the camera right in front of my chest. There's several ways to do it. Like you said, you could wear something, and some people make rigs, but we were surprised how good that shot came out. A lot of a shoot like this, Dan, for us is like, it's a lot of experimenting. And you're in the area, you have the day, you have a rough plan, but then there's all kinds of experimenting. And there's one shot in there, if you look, it's like this. The car is small on this bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. That goes through the trees. And it was just something we saw. And I was like, well, gosh, we got the drone, right? Is there a way maybe you could get the car, and, you had to time it right to get it. And then the fun of it is, digital cameras allow you to look and see what you got. And you look and you're like, oh, wow, better than we thought. And that works about 20% of the time. 80%, it's like, that stinks. Let's move on. So yeah, a lot of stuff like that makes producing this stuff fun.
Yeah, working in a TV station, having done stories, sometimes, from our standpoint, you want to experiment with something because, it might not work, but if it does, it's going to be spectacular, and everybody's going to be like, wow, how'd you think of that?
Well, don't you think especially these days, we're being trained, right, by the social media apps to have a shorter and shorter attention span. And we take pride in the Hagerty Drivers Club magazine of making it really well written. We intend people to read it. We want them to be done and feel like that was a good spend of time, but we have to first get them to read it. And I think the visuals are one of those ways that we hope to entice them. So we spend a lot of time on trying to get colorful, vibrant visuals. And by the way, I'm super grateful that, I'm part of Hagerty, where we can do this stuff properly, because as we talked about, it was two of us there for a day. We're based in Ann Arbor. We had to travel down there. We spent a lot of energy to make sure that I believe, Dan, this is treating the topic with the appropriate amount of dignity. And, it's important to us, the cars, the places, the roads, and, to establish that dignity, I think you have to communicate it properly, and it takes time.
Now, let's kind of go to the road next door in a little, to some degree here. Compare and contrast just the driving experience between the Skyway and, say, the Tail of the Dragon.
The Skyway is this beautiful, open, flowing road. Almost no sharp turns. Like you said, right? It's I think the speed limit's pretty high in places, 50, 45, 50, 55. And you can just get into this beautiful flow, curve to curve to curve. Almost never have to change your speed if you don't want to. You see, I'm not a motorcycle rider, but you see a lot of them on that road, and I understand why they must love it. It's like this rhythm of leaning one way, leaning the other. It almost feels like a little bit of a grace. And I find when I drive it, I get into this like peaceful zone. I call it, Zen by tarmac. And then the road about 20 miles north of here that is very popular, Route 129, Tail of the Dragon. That speed limit is, last I was there, Dad, maybe you could fact check me on this, it was 55. But the curves are so tight on that road. I mean, unless you're a lunatic or you're really, really good or you got a crazy car, you almost never go 55. And the turns are really tight. And so you're slowing down a lot, you're accelerating, and there's a lot of big drop-offs there. So this road is a lot more approachable. We thought it was better for something because a lot of our audience has older classic cars. Let's say you had a 65 Mustang convertible. It'd be delightful. Let's say you had a C7. Great. So I think it's suitable to almost any vehicle. So, I mean, you're local. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, that's one of the nice things I like about the Skyway, too. A lot of places, it's kind of open. And to kind of give it that, what you mentioned with the motorcycles, I mean, you've got such a view that where you can just kind of cruise along, wind in your face, enjoy the road. And I think that's what kind of makes it a little extra special.
Yeah. Yeah, Tail of the Dragon is, I'm hearing from the locals that I did a story there once where I found the fastest guy on the Dragon, and I brought a Ferrari to race him. And it's really fascinating. They all know it's like there's a turnout in Tennessee, and then the end is that motel. It's about 10 miles, and they run it at night, and they time themselves, and they all know what a good time is. And it was about 10 minutes when I was there 15 years ago. And I think now there's guys out there with McLarens and really crazy supercars doing it in 9. And they know it so well. They all go, like I said, in the middle of the night when it's pitch black and nobody's there. But it's a much different feel to what we wanted to communicate with the Cherohala, which is not that.
What is you took the Corvette up there. Is there any other post-2000 car that if you came back, you would be like, hey, I want to try this?
I mean, I'm a huge Miata fan. That would be a delightful car on this road, very approachable. I mean, the Mustangs built since then are so refined. They're basically alternatives to BMW coupes. There's almost really no bad choice. I think you could enjoy this road in almost anything post 2000.
Someday, I just recently received, because my parents are getting to the age where they don't drive all that much. My mom had a 2010 Miata, which I now own.
Oh, and you live there?
So someday it's going up there. Just getting a couple things taken care of it, and then someday I'm going to launch it.
I would just buzz up there early one morning, just come back. Don't overthink it.
Now, going to the previous generation, is there a particular classic or two you'd love to take there?
Same thing. I mean, anything would be fun. You can cruise this road. You can generate G-forces. You can do kind of any of those things. I mean, I think the classic one is the 50s British Roadsters, the sports cars, which are now, I mean, that's Triumph TR3s, Jaguar XK120s, MGTCs, TDs, TFs. Any of those would be, I mean, I could just imagine those engines have this really alluring kind of throatiness to them, and hearing that and the turbulence would be really quite something. And since those cars were so early and basic, there's nothing diluting that feel between the driver and the road, which is kind of fun.
Now, jumping ahead, obviously we don't want to give too much away. There's going to be a next year, and I'm sure you've already got ideas floating around. And are there places that you already know that you would like to revisit, or are there roads that somebody suggested you're like, hey, I want to go check that out?
Well, we think we've been in the southern part of the United States, and now we're going to look to the northern part, whether it's northeast or northwest. We're not really sure yet. Yes, I did. I drove a road in Pennsylvania about a month ago. That I'm a real junkie with this stuff, so I look on Google Maps and I see how the road is and what's around it, and then I'll figure out a way and an excuse to go try it. And I think I know everything, but then this one, I wasn't sure what to expect. It was way better and a lot fewer traffic. So I was like, huh. Okay, and there were some other people with me, so he said, "Wait, maybe it's this one." So we're sort of like in the nomination process because to get this out for next June, we got to shoot it this year. So we'll be making the call in the next couple of months.
You know what? Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
We're already up against the clock. Now, if you can, one more time, let everybody know if they want to see this information, where they can go to find it.
Go to Hagerty.com/media. A Google search, Road of the Year, Hagerty will pop up, both of them. Anybody can join the Hagerty Drivers Club, which gets you roadside. It gets you the magazine. It gets you discounts. It gets you access to a lot of events. We have almost 1 million people who are members, and it's a great, I don't know, it's a great club, and anybody can join it. So you can find that on Hagerty.com as well. And of course, our main business is insuring classic cars, keeping them on the road. So I certainly encourage everybody who has something like that at least to give us a look.
Now, I've been a member, and as I said at the top of the show, if you haven't seen that magazine, you should. I mean, it is every time a cover-to-cover read. I think my favorite article all time was The Black Ghost, when that all went down. Right before that went to auction, actually.
Yes, we still believe in a curated printed magazine as a respite for the digital chaos. And like I said, Dan, I'm so appreciate that you appreciate it and you like it, because we spend a lot of time making sure it's worth your time.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of letters. I know a lot of other people love it too. Larry, I'd like to thank you for joining me here today on Carolina Rides. Good luck with finding the next Road of the Year.
Thanks, Dan. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks, Larry. And that's it for this episode. We are working on our next guest. It is going to be a local show that is going to be a fundraiser. We will be talking about that here in a couple of weeks. Until then, drive safely. See you next time here on Carolina.